Now, approximately 6 out of 10 Ghanaians are not saving for retirement. That's according to 2023 Old Mutual Financial Services Monitor. Now, this is significantly higher amongst informal sector workers, younger and lower income earners. Here's more in this report.
The report also said only 18% are very confident that they have enough savings for retirement. Only 37% of respondents have started saving for retirement. Again, 7 out of 10 Ghanaians are hoping that their children may support them when they are old. There are no significant differences across age and income levels. Significantly, lower expectations amongst Ghanaians that the government will look after them when they are unable to support themselves. Meanwhile, consumers use a multitude of ways to save from formal to informal depending on needs. The top savings channels mentioned are the bank, mobile money, susu, or unbanked cash.
We've got to analyze this worrying trend, and joining us to do this is a financial analyst who's also the Chief Executive Officer of Dice Capital, Bernard Osei. Bernard, thanks so much for joining me on the marketplace. 6 out of 10 Ghanaians are not saving for retirement. How worrying or alarming is this to our financial system?
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for having me, Pius. Yes, it's quite worrying, and from my initial comment, I would say. But it could have even been worse, because we should also take into cognizance of the fact that people save from their disposable income. And for the last year and the last 2 years post-COVID, a lot of Ghanaians, especially those within the middle income bracket, have had their disposable income strongly diminished to a very lower margin, and hence the ability to save has become a problem, because you only save out of your disposable income. And when you don't have a lot of disposable income, you want to concentrate on the first things first. You look out of your shelter, what you will eat, food, and clothing. So once these things are catered for, and you are even struggling to look out for these 3 most important needs of every human being, for that matter, the last thing you want to think about is about the future. You want to take what you call control of the present, and make sure that once you cover the present, the future will definitely take care of itself. So I'm not surprised about the report, to be very honest with you. And like I said, it could have been worse. It is where we are because, for example, when you take Social Security and National Insurance Trust, there is a backing law that kind of criminalizes employers who refuses to pay and are sent to court, and you could even be put into prison. A lot of businesses are struggling to hold up in terms of paying their salaries and to meet their operational needs. So the recent report, even from the Senate, they indicate that the number of cases or the number of employers that they had to take them to court on the Saturday court cases had drastically increased by over 40%. So it tells you that employers and most organizations are struggling to keep their operational needs, yet alone to pay for Social Security. So the dynamics are a lot. So one, on the individual side, is disposable income, which has drastically diminished. And also on the organizational side, or that's the corporate side too, is also the fact that companies are struggling to meet their day-to-day obligations, yet alone to talk about pensions. Yeah.
All right, so if these issues you've enumerated are major reasons why we are seeing what we are recording now, we've got to address it. And how do we do that? Disposable income, or talk to our employer to increase our salaries?
Obviously, again, the depreciation of the city kind of also have affected us drastically. So our purchasing power has reduced. Cost of living has gone extremely higher. To have a bit of disposable income, you need to have a situation whereby your cost of living is lower. And when your cost of living is lower, then you have a bit of a disposable income to think about the future. So the best way in all of this is a two separate scenarios. Government should do whatever it takes to bring the cost of living down, i.e. electricity, water, the basic need. Rent is a big deal in this country. And I will tell you, Pius, about 60 to 70% of Ghanaians end up using all their money to pay rent. The big conversation that we haven't been able to resolve as a country is the fact that we continue to pay advance for rent, which is a killer. A young guy come from university, get employed, he start earning about 2,000 Ghana cedis. He wants to live on his own and start a family or begin a life. And he's been asked to dove as high as, let's say, 1,000 Ghana cedis a month for 24 months upfront before you can get an accommodation. These are things that affect the ordinary Ghanaian. These are things of economic nature that, as a country, we should take a second look at it and put in the right measures in place to make sure that we kind of solve the situation, especially when the laws of the country forbid that. But because of demand and supply, landlords and landladies are taking that opportunity to take advantage of the demand and supply and continue to do that. I believe that is where government comes in. I believe that's the role of government to step into it and make sure that they kind of savage Ghanaians. And I think the vice president started a policy like that to spearhead that situation whereby people who are in the need to pay rent will not suffer. I think those are some of the policies that we should push as a country, and both on your side as a journalist and on all those of us who have the opportunity to speak on matters like this.
And that brings to sharp focus the purpose of the National Rent Control Program, which is in place as a policy measure to address some of these concerns when it comes to rent and what have you. Is that to suggest that it hasn't been effective as it would have?
At all. It hasn't been effective. And, Pius, one of the things we are so good at in doing as a country is always coming up with the laws. I always say we have a lot of laws that we put in our statutes books, and the laws really, back, but it cannot bite. And once you have laws that can really back, and Parliament takes time and passes all those laws, but in reality on the ground, that is not what is happening. We go to work and we have employees come to us every day with rent issues, asking for salary advance to be able to pay for rent. And the annoying aspect is that most of these landlords are not asking for even a year. Many of them from onset are asking for 2 years. In some scenarios of even whereby the person have already stayed even in the place for 5 years and 6 years. And it is assumed that the person has shown a bit of good faith, is a good tenant and all that. But they still go ahead to ask for 2 years when the rent is due and all that. And these are critical issues we need to take care of. So if I'm earning about 2,000 Ghana cedis and I've been asked to cough up that huge amount upfront, the only option for me is to go for credit. And we know cost of credit is also on the high. So when I go for credit to show up on that need, that person need, because shelter is critical for every human being. You need a place to lay your head to have that kind of peace of mind. And once you don't have a place to lay your head, basically you don't have a life. So the only option is to go for a loan, which is also a killer. At the end of the day, I'll be paying interest on the loan and also a principal as well. And I will be left with nothing to save. So this is not rocket science. We all know the issues which are confronting us. And as an economy and as a country, we need to do better to save, especially the middle class, the young ones coming up. We need to do a lot to save them.
And Bernard, in as much as government has a greater role to play in all of these, as individual, what more can you also do, irrespective of the fact that you earn little?
There's little we could do. Trust me. We live in difficult times. Let's not try to be extremely modest or whatever. Yes, trust me. People have actually cut down the expenses of living. I think the only thing that comes to mind is like cut your coat according to your size. But trust me, we live in times, difficult times, whereby even you can't even cut the coat to your size. The coat cannot even get to your waist, let alone to fit you. So it's quite tougher in terms of the living condition. And I think that on the side of it,
it appears we've lost Bernard Oseitu as well on this great topic we are discussing. Of course, well, he's made his point. Government has a major role to play in all of these.